Join me, 48 Hours correspondent Erin Moriarty, on my podcast, My Life of Crime, as I take on true crime investigations like no other. This season, I'm looking into the labyrinth of crime and secrets within families. I'm cutting straight to the evidence and talking to the people directly involved, including investigators and the families of victims. Listen to My Life of Crime with Erin Moriarty wherever you get your podcasts.
Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, the Jail Oversight Board's been in the news a lot the last few months, but what does it actually do? Who is on the board? How often do they meet? And why is it so important that the county executive actually attend the meetings? It's Monday, January 22nd. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh is talking about. We're with Tanisha Long, a community organizer with the Abolitionist Law Center. Hey, Tanisha, welcome to CityCast Pittsburgh.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm actually really excited about this.
We are so stoked to learn from you. I really want to start with the basics, like what it's been like for you as an attendee for the last few years, kind of before the start of this year. So first and foremost, what is the purpose of the Jail Oversight Board? Like, what are they supposed to be doing?
So, the easiest way to put it is the Jail Oversight Board is kind of the governing body of the jail.
Mm-hmm.
They make sure that the jail is following rules, regulations, humane practices, respecting the civil and human rights of incarcerated people, the people who work there. And it's not just the jail. They also have oversight over other facilities that people are sentenced to, like the Renewal Center.
Yeah. How many people total does that represent? Do you know?
Oh, gosh, no. I know right now, well, I think a good rough number, about 2,000 people. There's 1,700 in the jail as of today. And then between the Renewal Center and other facilities, you probably have at least another 200-300.
It's a lot of folks, a lot of lives, a lot of livelihoods that are being touched by the system. Who is technically in charge of the board? Is it the county executive? Because I know there are a mix of folks, like elected, some appointed, some regular citizens, regular people.
So it's a weird makeup because the board doesn't actually have bylaws, which is, a big deal.
That seems hard. Like, how do you know who's supposed to talk?
I sued them over it. But essentially, the board doesn't have bylaws. So there's no one who is in charge per se, but the president judge typically leads the meetings.
Okay.
The county executive is probably the most powerful person on that board, though.
And they meet once a month. I've heard it can go really, really long, like 2 or 3 hours.
I would definitely say bring a blanket, some water, a few snacks.
No.
When they first started, the thing is, when the Jail Oversight Board meetings first started, they were so quick. They were less than half an hour because people weren't really invested and weren't asking questions. So it's like, hey, here's what's going on in the jail.
How long ago was that?
Oh, at least a decade ago.
Well, so what have they been talking about for 2-3 hours more recently?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of community organizing efforts that have gotten public commenters out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you went from maybe having 1 or 2 public commenters to having like 15, 20. That can take up a good portion of time. And then the addition of Bethany Hallam on the board was just a radical change.
County Councilwoman Bethany Hallam.
Correct. So she really started digging in and asking questions and holding the warden accountable, holding the jail accountable, and no one was used to that. And they were like, whoa, what's happening here? Why are people asking things?
So has it been a contentious vibe then lately? Like, I don't know if bickering is the right word, but talking back to each other?
That's the kindest way to describe it.
How would you describe it?
Hell. No, it honestly, argumentative.
Okay.
It's been argumentative because Councilwoman Hallam, she tries really hard to get these answers. But Councilwoman Hallam, she essentially, her and Judge Halsey did not get along very well. And, her and Rich Fitzgerald really don't get along, and he wasn't showing up. So they were just going back and forth because she's like, I need these answers. And he's like, too bad.
Was it required that the county executive come?
Absolutely. It is in the state statute. The state statute requires the county executive to come. He is not, he or she now, right? Love it.
Hmm.
The only people permitted to have a designee are the president of county council, which is Pat Katina, and he sends Councilwoman Hallam.
Hmm.
And then the other person would be the president judge.
Well, so let's jump to now because, as you said, a lot's changed since January. The new county executive, Sarah Innamorato, did attend a meeting. She promised she would through her whole campaign, and she went to the first one after her inauguration. What was that meeting like? Did it change anything?
So it was weird. I've attended these meetings for 2 years straight, and I would always leave there with just like this sense of anger, and I'm like, what do I do with this anger? And this meeting, it was oddly calm, and people were asking questions. Not just Bethany, every single person sitting on the board there was asking questions. They were, backing up these requests for documents. They were engaging with the public when they were asking questions. Before Judge Housey had a rule that the board was not allowed to respond to public comments. And they were just, having these actual constructive back and forths. I was very confused by the whole process. I'm like, is this what functioning government looks like? Seeing Sarah there was really dope because you just feel like it's been ignored for so long and that people don't care and that you're just like just throwing things at the wall, hoping somebody will pay attention. And then the county exec shows up and she's like, hey, I'm here. I have power. I'm willing to use it. I want these answers. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Love it. So it definitely was weird, though. I like it. Weird in a good way.
Yeah. It sounds like these are good changes to have folks, getting along, having constructive conversation. Did anything happen that in that first meeting back, or is it just sort of still fact finding?
So a lot of what was happening at the meeting was fact finding, and kind of like a getting up to speed on, what have we asked for before and not received? What was left hanging last year? There was a commitment to get bylaws, which excites me.
I can tell that you are a person who appreciates order.
Very, very much. I mean, I do love my chaos because I create it. However, I don't really want that in an oversight board meeting. That's the one place I feel like people should be able to expect an orderly process because, like, look who we're fighting for. We're fighting for people who are incarcerated. So they like live their lives not knowing what to expect. There should be at least one place where they know how things are going to work.
Hey, CityCast listeners, if you're looking for ways to contribute here in Pittsburgh, we've got a treat for you. IOB, aka In Our Backyards, is a nonprofit crowdfunding platform that helps people raise funds to change make in their communities. Maybe it's the cat colony in the abandoned Western State Penitentiary, or helping keep Black women and birthing people safe through pregnancy and beyond. Since 2016, IOB has been helping our friends and neighbors raise more than $1.1 million to date. You can learn more and donate at ioby.org/Pittsburgh. And while you're there, they're also hiring. If you're passionate about community-led change, apply to be IOB's next Senior Action Strategist. Get all the details at ioby.org/jobs. Imagine a lush green courtyard surrounded by trees waving in the wind and the calming sound of the Allegheny River rushing past. Maybe a little bird song as you look out from a covered deck. This tranquil space in Upper Lawrenceville is the Tree Pittsburgh campus, and it could be yours for your next big event. If you're not familiar, Tree Pittsburgh is an environmental nonprofit focused on building up and preserving our city's beautiful urban forest. Their campus is dotted with examples of their work, and it makes a stunning backdrop for a wedding, an annual party, even your next company retreat. especially if being environmentally conscious is on your wish list. The Riverfront Room, for example, is zero waste and it's solar powered. All vendors are welcome, indoors and out, and there are still weekends available for 2024. Visit treepittsburgh.org/venue to learn more. Well, what is on your wish list then as a jail oversight board observer? What all do they need to get done in the shortest term?
Probably my biggest one right now is removing the weapons, the non-lethal weapons that were purchased by the warden that the jail oversight board had banned in 2021.
So that's the former warden, Harper, who's gone now.
Yeah. Former warden Orlando Harper purchased these guns under a contract that the jail oversight board essentially voided. They said, we're not going to contract with this firm. Also, we ban the use of these weapons that you got in this deal.
And they're like they look like shotguns, but they have, is it rubber bullets?
Some of them are rubber bullets. Some of them have a type of scatter shot, like bean bags. And these aren't things that can do a small amount of harm. These are things that can actually, they can be lethal.
Yeah, they're called non-lethal, but they can really hurt you. And I remember some of the headlines about this the last couple of years. It was a lot of discussion because I think the way I saw it phrased is that they weren't allowed to bring any non-lethal weapons into the building. And Warden Harper at the time was like, we already had them.
I give him points for creativity. Because, as someone who loves the law, I don't love that we have laws, but I actually love studying the law.
Mm-hmm.
I love when people try to find loopholes, even if they're not valid, because his was not a valid loophole. But the creativity really was there. He's like, well, we just had I know you banned them, but we already had them. And it doesn't work like that.
Well, and one of the other problems with Harper, if I'm remembering correctly, was that there was never a big discussion about his installation. That is a role of the county executive, and the board didn't get to weigh in on it.
Yeah. So when it comes to Warden Harper, I went back through literally a decade of board meeting notes to try to see if there was a discussion or a vote on him being installed, is the best word to put it. Because it's not really appointed when you don't go through the correct processes. He just was placed. And there's none. And we've asked the former county executive, Rich Fitzgerald, who voted on him. We asked Judge Halsey, who voted on him. And the answer is no one. He was just placed there. And I think that was our first sign, or should have been our first sign, that the former county executive was not really interested in what the public thought of the jail or what his fellow jail oversight board members thought about what's going on in the jail. He had a vision in mind, and he planned on running it that way.
And now we need a new warden. I assume that's probably one of the top priorities for Sarah Innamorato.
She has got a big task on her plate with that one. Because, when we say we need a new warden, we need to find someone with a commitment to, at bare minimum, follow our laws. You have the solitary confinement law, which is currently being violated.
Yeah, which we didn't talk about. Harper used the word segregation instead of confinement for a long time. I got to say, I can't fathom that in this 2022, 2023, we were having someone argue that the word segregation was positive.
I didn't think of it that way. But yeah, no. He's like, yeah, it's just segregated housing. And I'm like, no. It's solitary confinement. And the worst part is, they do this to people on the mental health pod as well, depending on where they rank their level of mental healthiness.
Okay.
So they have a tier system, which is on my wish list, abolishing the tier system. But they have a tier system where you're rated 1 through 5 on a scale of mental healthiness. And if you're in that 3, 4, 5 category, your privileges, including the privilege to go outside your cell and be around other people, get rescinded, and you get placed in some instances in solitary confinement, which does nothing great for a person's mental health.
Yeah, we'll link to some descriptions of what the rules actually are around solitary confinement, and at least allegedly what we've been doing instead, because the two do not match.
They do not match. No, there is a clear misalignment.
What about some of the lawsuits against the board? Because I know those have been floating around in various capacities for a while. You even joked about your own.
Yeah, right. Um, Shout out to Rachel Radke because she actually was a pioneer of it, and she filed it originally pro se, like she was going to represent herself. She used ChatGPT to help her write this lawsuit, and she was suing the board for violating the Sunshine Act, which dictates how they're supposed to hold meetings, how they're supposed to include the public, and the ACLU picked it up.
Hmm.
And they asked me if I would like to join in the lawsuit because, I had additional claims like the lack of bylaws, skipping over public comments, not following any type of rules, trying to prohibit the speech of the public. So that's something that, we're working through still. And then Councilwoman Hallam sued the board for Rich Fitzgerald violating the state statute by sending illegal designees. So these are things where we're like, hey, it would be really cool if we just had a functioning board and we all like followed the law and the public knew what to expect. I think what we've seen so far just in this first meeting gives me hope that these are situations that will be resolved positively. But I think it's something we can figure out. I think we're getting somewhere.
Well, so if folks are feeling maybe passionately about this, they can attend themselves. They can participate in public comment. How would you recommend someone maybe kind of dip their toes in the water? I don't know if you want to make yourself personally available or if there are resources out there for people.
I am so used to being personally available for jail oversight board stuff. People hit me up on Twitter, Facebook. I don't know how everybody gets my number, but they do. And at this point, it doesn't even faze me because I get really excited when people want to come.
Okay.
Because that's one, I think the board is committed to being more responsive because they've seen that the public is just not letting up. So, Sarah making that one of her campaign promises, I don't think that came out of nowhere. I think that came out of the fact that we just put consistent pressure on them. And I would say the first thing is like, if you want to come to the board meeting, please, please come. And if you're feeling like nervous about going alone, I haven't missed one in 2 years. I will be there. And if you're nervous about public speaking, you can reach out to me because a lot of times we have statements from people who are currently incarcerated where they just need somebody to read it.
Yeah, like they can't attend themselves. That's not allowed, but they can have a proxy read their statement.
And wouldn't it be cool if we found a way where they could phone in and like give public comment?
I mean, we let them phone in for their actual hearings. So
Boom.
we have the technology, just saying.
Or at least at the bare minimum, we should make the public comment online link because people can submit public comments online as well. Like say you just can't make it, but you're watching virtually, submit a public comment online because it goes on record and the people inside the jail can read the meeting minutes. But it would be really cool if the people in the jail were able to like give public comment, even if it's in a written form. I understand sometimes it takes baby steps. Like, can we open up that link? Just something like that.
Yeah. So I guess if folks are interested in getting involved, when is that next meeting? When can they meet you in person?
The Jail Oversight Board meets the first Thursday of every month. So the next one would be February 1st. And then that's going to be in the county courthouse, floor 4 in the gold room. You literally can't miss it. It's huge.
It is literally gold, floor to ceiling, even the carpets.
Gilded. I do recommend people get there by like 3:45 because that public comment sign up sheet goes away at 4.
Oh, okay.
So if you're running a little late, like I always am, at least have someone else sign you up.
So show up a little early if you've got something to say. Tanisha, thank you so much for speaking up on all of this, for attending, for speaking truth to power. We really appreciate your time and your wisdom. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this. This is dope.
That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell one person about us. Send them your favorite episode and insist they talk about it with you, like book club, but for podcast people. And then let us know if that worked. You can hit us up always via email at pittsburgh@citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Talk to you soon.
Give me 1 second because the wind is blowing really loud.
It's so funny what you hear when you're like listening for that, right?